think? Should stars keep their pain private, or is this a good thing? With us tonight for The Crying Game, in New York, criminal defense attorney and TV host Lauren Lake. In Hollywood, managing editor for UsMagazine.com, Ken Baker. Also in Hollywood, psychotherapist Dr. Jen Berman, who is the author of the A to Z Guide to Raising Happy, Confident Kids. Welcome to all of you. You know, at Oprah's news conference, she talked about how when she first heard about this abuse scandal, it made her cry. Listen to this.
When I first heard about it, I spent about a half hour crying, moving from room to room in my house. I was so stunned I couldn't even wrap my brain around it.
She was painfully honest in the details of what she went through. I was riveted listening to her words. Ken, what do you think? Is this a good thing, or should she have kept this private?
Yeah, she was honest, but she didn't exhibit the feelings that she had when she was stumbling around the house a mess, which I think the public appreciates. I think they trusted Oprah as telling the truth, as revealing her true emotions, and showing enough emotion for us to know and be convinced that she really was truly hurt and damaged, and as she said, devastated by it. Yeah. She didn't go over the top, and I think that's why it was a very effective means of communicating really where she was at and how she felt about it.
Yeah, it's obvious she's been caused a lot of despair and anguish by this. Dr. Jen, what do you think?
Well, you know, it's interesting. A study came out by Penn State recently that looked at how people perceive men that cry and women that cry. And women are judged in a much more harsh fashion. And I think Oprah's tears were very appropriate. And the study even revealed less is better, that we want to see people get teary-eyed. We don't want to see them sobbing like Ellen did. It feels like we're witnessing a very private moment when someone gets that out of control. And I think it's very hard to have empathy for someone like Heather Mills. Boo-hoo, I want my $500 million.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Heather Mills, and sobbing, let's talk about her. She really came undone in her interview with Britain's Good Morning Television about how she feels she's been treated by the press regarding her divorce from Paul McCartney.
Sure.
I've been close to suicide. So upset about this.
I know you're.
I've had worse press than a paedophile or a murderer, and I've done nothing but charity for 20 years.
Lauren, did this seem to you to be a heartfelt meltdown, or were we seeing crocodile tears?
Well, I think she really did melt down, but what I found most interesting is that, you know, she has been portrayed as this evil, wicked gold digger, and, you know, and now we see that she can be a sensitive and mushy gold digger, and that her feelings can get hurt, too. And, but, you know, this is the part that I think people don't understand, is that just because you may be out for something, or you're not, you know, very high up in the court of popular opinion, it doesn't mean you can't have a meltdown. And I will give Heather this. She has gotten more press than many pedophiles and many murderers. She stated a fact.
She was right about that. Very distressed, and she wanted to take it public. Ken, what do you think? Should we take pity on Heather, or is her crying game hurting her?
Well, here's the whole problem with Heather, is that the image that she had before she gave this interview, or these couple of interviews where she was crying, was that she was kind of angry, kind of nasty, and was probably very difficult to be married to for Paul McCartney. And you know what? That kind of came across in the interview. So here she is saying, lay off me, but she came across as angry, spiteful, and kind of had a mean streak in her. It was sort of like those emotions bubbled up, and the real Heather Mills came and showed us who she really was. And I think it didn't help her because of that reason. And I think she's allowed to cry. She's allowed to have tears. Look, we don't really know. Maybe Paul McCartney was horrible to be married to. Maybe she is getting really bad press and a bad spin. But at the end of the day, the public perception is that she's going for the money, and the public just wants her to go away. And I think she really just does need to shut up.
Well, and Paul, on the other hand, has remained silent about this. Dr. Jen, was that you?
Well, I couldn't agree with Ken more. I think that it's her anger and the venom that makes people uncomfortable and makes people feel like you can't even side with her if you want to. She seemed so angry that you felt like she was even taking it out on the interviewer. And you do imagine that if that's the way she treated the interviewer, that she probably didn't treat her soon-to-be ex-husband all that well either.
Yeah, keep her away from the knives. Don't argue with her in the kitchen.